Okay, let's dive in. Social media is, it's just everywhere, isn't it? It's basically glued to our hands. It shapes trends. It's how companies try to, well, connect.
Absolutely. It's impossible to ignore.
But wading through all that noise, really,
hmm
to figure out what social media actually does, is a real impact for a business or even for you trying to build your own profile online, it can feel like a lot.
It really can. And it's changed so much. It's way beyond just posting updates now. It's fundamental to the whole digital picture,
Yeah.
affects everything from sales to, well, how people see you.
Exactly. And that's really what we want to get into in this deep dive. We've pulled together a bunch of different sources, research, industry notes, our own thinking, looking at how social impacts, well, everything. Measuring value, shaping identity, building connections, even how you show up in Google searches, surprisingly.
Yeah, our goal here is to unpack all that for you. Kind of cut through the clutter and pull out the really important stuff, the key takeaways, give you a bit of a shortcut to understanding how social media actually works based on what these sources are telling us.
So get ready. We're going to explore, how you turn likes and shares into actual value, how you consciously shape who you are online, the whole art of building relationships through these platforms, and yeah, that subtle link to search results. Let's unpack it.
Okay, so maybe the first big question anyone asks a business, an individual building a brand, is all this time and maybe money actually worth it?
Right.
And that brings us straight to measuring social media ROI, return on investment. Basically figuring out the value you get back from the resources, time, effort, cash that you put in.
Yeah, like if I spend hours crafting the perfect post,
hmm
or maybe you run some ads, what am I really getting? Is it just likes or something more concrete?
Well, it needs to be something more if you're being strategic about it. The sources we looked at are really clear. You absolutely have to track key metrics, but not just the vanity ones. They kind of break it down into three main areas. First, there's engagement. That's your interaction stuff, likes, comments, shares. It shows if people are actually, connecting with what you're putting out there, finding it valuable.
Okay, so that's the buzz, the interaction. Then reach.
Yeah,
How many people actually see it?
exactly. Impressions, follower growth. That gives you a sense of your potential audience size, how wide your net is cast. But, and this is key, the really crucial metrics for business are conversions.
Ah,
Click-throughs to your website, leads generated, actual sales. That's where your social media effort directly ties into, tangible business results.
and what these sources really hammer home is that you can't just look at those numbers on their own. You have to connect them back to your overall business goals. What does success actually look like for you? Is it purely driving sales?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just about getting your brand name out there, awareness, or maybe keeping the customers you already have happy.
That alignment piece is absolutely critical. Yeah.
Mhm.
Without clear goals, those metrics are just, well, there's just numbers floating around. If your main goal is, say, boosting online sales that come from social media, you'd set a really specific, measurable target. Something like increase referral web sales from social by 20% this quarter. Using that SMART goals framework mentioned in the material helps tie social activity directly to a bottom line result.
Okay, now here's something from the sources I found really interesting. It's not only about the hard numbers, the quantitative stuff, there's this whole other layer of value in the qualitative side.
Exactly right. Your ROI percentage, traffic numbers, revenue, that's the quantitative. It tells you what happened.
hmm
But then diving into, say, what people are actually saying in the comments, analyzing the overall feeling or sentiment around your brand online, that's the qualitative. It tells you why things are happening. And often, that reveals value the raw numbers completely miss.
So if someone comments like, wow, this explanation was so helpful, or you keep seeing feedback that your social presence makes people trust you more, that's actual ROI, even if it didn't immediately lead to a click or a purchase.
Oh, absolutely. That kind of goodwill, that brand affinity, building genuine trust, those are real returns on your investment. The sources really emphasize pairing that hard quantitative data with qualitative insights, like sentiment analysis, especially if your goals are more around engagement or reach. It's really the only way to see the full picture, the total value social media is bringing.
Okay, so the big takeaway from measuring social isn't just, counting clicks and sales, though obviously that's vital. It's about looking at the numbers, yes, but also really listening to the stories and the feedback behind them. That's how you grasp the full value.
And moving on from just measurement to identity, social media is, well, arguably one of the most powerful tools we have now for shaping how people see us online, both as individuals and for businesses. This gets us into branding.
Right. And the sources looked at personal branding first. What does that even mean today with all these feeds?
Well, personal branding, as the material explores it, is really about consciously defining and showing off your unique value, your skills, your core values, your personality. It's the story you want people to associate with your name. One source mentioned the Harvard Business School view. It's about shaping that narrative, the associations people have about you, the expectations.
So you're kind of actively building the impression you want to make.
Precisely. And the absolute foundation for that, according to these sources, is authenticity and consistency. You need to share stuff that genuinely reflects who you are, what you believe in, what you know. And crucially, keep it consistent. Your profile picture, the tone you use across all the different platforms you're on, that consistency is what builds trust. People learn what to expect.
But it's not just about being consistent, right? You have to actually give people a reason to pay attention, to engage.
Oh, definitely. That's the providing value and engaging part. Position yourself as someone who offers something useful in your niche, tips, insights, maybe compelling stories. And crucially, don't just talk at people. Engage back, respond to comments, jump into relevant conversations. That builds your credibility and makes you seem, approachable.
The sources had some great examples. Brené Brown, for instance.
She's a perfect case study. Her entire brand is built on sharing these really honest, vulnerable stories about courage and empathy. Her laser focus and consistency on those themes have built this huge, trusting following. Her brand is trust and authenticity. You know what she stands for.
And then you've got someone totally different, like Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V.
Right. Completely different vibe, but the core principles, exactly the same. His brand is all high energy, no filter, maybe a bit loud, constantly pushing out motivational business advice in his very specific style. His authenticity to that persona and his relentless consistency have earned him this massive following. They both just show how powerful a distinct, deliberate personal brand can be.
Okay, so that's the personal side. How does this branding translate when it's a business using social media?
For businesses, social media branding really boils down to building recognition, trust, and ultimately loyalty. It's about making your brand instantly pop out in a crowded feed and creating a positive feeling around it.
And the visual side of things is pretty much non-negotiable here.
Foundational, absolutely. Using your logo, your specific brand colors, fonts, the whole visual style consistently across every single post, every profile, it's essential. Sources like Canva really highlight this. That consistency makes your brand instantly recognizable. Think about Nike's swoosh or Apple's clean aesthetic. You know it immediately because they use it everywhere. That visual repetition builds familiarity. It signals professionalism, too.
And just like with a person, the brand needs a voice, a personality.
Yes, exactly. A distinct personality that fits the company's values and, importantly, resonates with the target audience. Is it witty, formal, authoritative? Whatever it is, you need to maintain that voice consistently in posts, replies, everything. Again, Canva mentioned this. A consistent voice makes the brand feel like a real, relatable character. Compare how a bank talks online versus, say, a fast food chain or Duolingo with its quirky owl persona.
And weaving in stories, too. Sharing the why behind the brand.
Oh, that's absolutely crucial. Using storytelling, maybe behind-the-scenes looks, sharing customer success stories, highlighting your team members, it adds depth. It humanizes the brand beyond just pushing products. Sources on community-led growth really emphasize this for creating that emotional connection. Think about Starbucks, for example, when they share stories about where their beans come from or feature individual baristas. It reinforces their values and makes the brand feel richer.
Okay, you can't really talk about social media branding without bringing up the example everyone mentions. Wendy's on Twitter. It was in the sources, too.
Wendy's. Yes. They just nailed it, didn't they? They crafted this bold, really witty, kind of snarky online personality that's just instantly recognizable. They got famous for playfully roasting competitors, bantering with followers.
It's very distinct.
It totally cuts through the noise. That consistent, edgy tone differentiates them, and it attracted this huge audience who just loved the humor. And it wasn't just random jokes. It cleverly reinforces their whole brand position of being fresh, different, bold, maybe even connects back to their fresh, never frozen thing. That consistent voice, plus their visuals, made them legendary on social.
It really drives home that point for individuals or businesses. That deliberate consistency in how things look, how the brand sounds, the stories it tells, that's the absolute foundation for building a strong, recognizable, and trusted identity online.
And once you've got that clear identity established, social media becomes this incredibly powerful engine for actually building real connections. It's not just a megaphone, it's fundamentally about relationships. But how you go about it can look a bit different depending on if you're talking B2C, business to consumer, or B2B, business to business.
Right. Let's start with B2C. When a brand is talking directly to, regular people.
Yeah, think of the brand almost like a friendly, helpful person in that case, the audience. They're often looking for quick answers, maybe some entertainment, a sense of community, or just straightforward customer service. So the focus needs to be on direct interaction, a friendly, approachable tone, and being really responsive.
And this is where customer service via social really comes into its own, right? The sources mention how many people actually prefer it now for getting help.
They really do. Sources like Answer Connect pointed out that something like 34% of customers prefer social media over traditional channels for support. And for younger folks, 1834, it's even higher, almost 2/3. So being responsive isn't just nice, it's basically expected now. A Sprout social source noted that over half of consumers remember and value brands that simply reply to them on social.
So things like interactive content polls, Q&As, maybe live videos that helps make the brand feel more human and build that connection.
Exactly. It breaks down the barrier, makes the brand feel accessible. Think about Netflix engaging playfully in their comments or an airline quickly responding to someone stressed about a lost bag. Those little interactions, done consistently, build loyalty over time.
Okay, so how does that shift for B2B? Business to business relationships on social media.
Well, for B2B, the vibe is maybe more like networking at an industry conference or joining a professional discussion group online. Your audience is other professionals. They're typically looking for insights, solutions to business challenges, ways to be more efficient. Entertainment is usually less of a priority.
So the focus shifts more towards building credibility, showing expertise, and expanding professional networks.
Precisely. The content tends to be more value-focused, sharing industry trends, maybe white papers, case studies, thought leadership articles. It's about establishing your company as an expert, showing how you can help other businesses succeed. Engagement often happens within those professional online spaces, commenting thoughtfully on LinkedIn posts, participating in relevant Twitter chats. The tone is generally professional, but still, personable and insightful works best.
Like a software company sharing detailed analysis of new tech trends, or maybe a consulting firm breaking down market data. It's about proving your value proposition to other businesses.
Exactly that. But here's the thing. Whether it's B2C or B2B, the core principles highlighted in the sources, they're actually the same. You have to be responsive, you need to provide real value, and you absolutely have to listen to your audience. Treat your followers like valued partners, not just passive consumers. Relationship building is a long game.
And to underline that point again, social media really has become a critical customer service channel.
No question, you just have to meet customers where they are. And the data clearly shows they are increasingly turning to social media for help and support. Prompt replies are basically non-negotiable. Aim for acknowledging things almost immediately. Even if the full solution takes time, that quick public acknowledgement shows you're listening and you care.
And doing it publicly adds another dimension, doesn't it?
It really does. Responding publicly doesn't just help the person who asked. It shows everyone else watching that your brand is on the ball, attentive, and cares about its customers. That statistic from Sprout Social, 51% remember brands that respond publicly. That's pretty powerful. Now, for really complex stuff, you might need to shift to private messages, but it's good practice to note publicly that you're doing that.
So you can actually flip a potentially negative support interaction into a positive moment for relationship building.
You absolutely can. Monitor mentions of your brand. Even if you're not directly tagged, the Sprout social sources recommend this. Being proactive, like jumping in when you see someone venting frustration, even if they didn't at you, that can genuinely turn a frustrated customer into a loyal advocate. When handled well, these public service moments actually become positive marketing content that builds trust with everyone watching.
It's really clear that building relationships on social is definitely a two-way street. It takes authentic engagement, consistent value, really active listening, and fully baking customer service into your whole social strategy. It's all about nurturing those connections.
And when you successfully nurture those connections, you often start building something even stronger, a community. And having a community has some, surprising ripple effects, including influencing something that seems totally separate, like how easily people find you through search engines. But let's talk about community building itself first.
Okay, so what's the difference between just having a bunch of followers and actually building a community on social?
Yeah, good question. It's really about creating online spaces where your fans or customers don't just interact with you, the brand, but where they interact with each other. It fosters a sense of belonging, all centered around your brand or a shared interest connected to it. That's the heart of a real community.
So it's about enabling those peer-to-peer connections.
Exactly. And there are techniques for doing that. One is cultivating dedicated community spaces. Think Facebook groups, maybe a subreddit, a Discord server, or even a forum on your own website. The key is picking platforms where your audience already hangs out and feels comfortable. The Sephora Beauty Insider community, which came up in the community-led growth sources, is a fantastic example. Customers actively help other customers with advice and product tips. That kind of engagement sustains itself and really deepens the bond with the brand.
And user-generated content, or UGC, must play a big part here too.
Oh, huge. Actively encouraging your audience to create and share their own content related to your brand, maybe using a specific hashtag, or participating in themed campaigns. People genuinely love being part of the brand story, seeing their own content featured. Think about Starbucks' famous hashtag Red Cup contest, or their hashtag My Starbucks Experience hashtag, also noted in those community-led growth sources. When they repost customer photos, it validates their fans, inspires others, and generates incredibly authentic marketing content.
And things like challenges or contests, how do they fit in?
Yeah, interactive campaigns and challenges are brilliant for community building. They rally people around a fun, shared activity, sparking creativity, and often leading to members cheering each other on. Nike's classic hashtag Just Do It campaigns, or those Starbucks photo contests we mentioned, they get followers actively posting, discussing, and engaging with one another, not just reacting to the brand's posts. That's when you know you have a real, thriving community, when members connect with each other.
And you also mentioned recognizing the key players, the advocates.
Super important. Identify those really active, passionate members in your community. Thank them publicly, give them shout outs. Some brands even formalize this with ambassador programs or MVP initiatives. Nurturing that core group of advocates motivates them to contribute even more and helps drive the community's overall growth and positive energy.
So building community is really about facilitating those connections among your audience, centered around a shared interest. And it creates this amazing amplification effect, extending your brand's reach and impact way beyond what you could ever achieve just by posting content yourself. Okay, now let's make that leap to the surprising connection: social media and SEO. How on earth does activity on Facebook or Twitter affect my Google ranking?
Right. This is where it gets really interesting, and honestly, where there's a lot of confusion. The sources we looked at, like Shopify and even direct statements from Google, are very clear on one point. Social engagement itself, likes, shares, follower counts, is not a direct Google ranking factor. There isn't some checkbox in Google's algorithm that says, oh, this page got 10,000 likes, let's boost its rank.
Okay, so going viral on TikTok doesn't automatically shoot my website to the #1 spot on Google. Phew. But there is a connection, an indirect one.
Absolutely. A really significant indirect influence, and it works in a few key ways. First, it's about brand awareness and, consequently, search queries. Having a strong, visible presence on social media makes more people aware of your brand. And what do people often do when they become aware of a brand they're interested in?
They Google it.
Exactly. They search for your brand name directly on Google. An increase in these branded searches is a signal to search engines that your brand is popular, relevant, and gaining traction. Google tends to favor trusted, popular brands, so this increase in branded search volume is a positive signal that can indirectly influence your overall visibility and rankings over time. Basically, social creates demand that then shows up in search behavior.
Huh. Okay, so making people aware of you on social leads to them looking for you on Google, which Google notices.
Right.
What else?
Second, it's about driving traffic and engagement to your website. Social media is obviously a fantastic channel for distributing your content, blog posts, videos, product pages, whatever. Now, while links from social media platforms aren't typically weighted like traditional backlinks from other websites, the traffic they send absolutely matters. If visitors who click through from social media spend a good amount of time on your site, navigate to other pages, and generally seem engaged, that signals to search engines that your content is valuable and relevant. That positive user engagement, as the Shopify sources noted, can indirectly contribute to better rankings down the line.
Okay, that makes sense. Good content keeps people sticking around. And can social even help get those valuable backlinks that SEO people are always talking about?
Yes, this is another crucial indirect pathway. Think of social media as a massive megaphone for your best content. When you create something genuinely valuable, a great article, an insightful video, useful data, and it gets shared widely on social platforms, its visibility just explodes. This massively increases the chance that other people, bloggers, journalists, industry websites, academics will see it. And if they find it valuable, they might cite it or link back to it from their own websites. Those earned backlinks from reputable external sites are a very, very strong ranking factor for Google. Social media acts as a catalyst, getting your content seen by the people who have the authority to create those valuable links.
Like maybe a university posts a cool study finding on Twitter, a journalist sees it, and links to the study on the university website in their news article.
Exactly that kind of scenario. The social share created the visibility that led to the valuable backlink. And one more thing, just having well-maintained, active social media profiles often means those profiles themselves will rank highly when someone searches for your brand name. This reinforces your brand's credibility and takes up valuable real estate on the search results page.
Gotcha. So, wrapping up the SEO connection. Social media isn't like flipping a direct ranking switch for Google, but it significantly boosts your brand's overall online presence and reputation. It creates favorable conditions that help improve your search performance by driving more branded searches, sending engaged traffic to your site, and crucially, helping you earn those powerful backlinks from other sites. It's definitely a synergistic relationship.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap the main areas we've unpacked here in this deep dive, drawing from all those sources we looked at.
Right. First, ROI. You've got to measure it, but measure it against your actual business goals.
Right.
And look at both the hard numbers, the quantitative and the qualitative feedback to really understand the full value.
Second, branding. Whether it's your personal brand or your business's, you build a strong, memorable identity through deliberate authenticity, being really consistent with your visuals and voice, and using compelling storytelling.
Third, relationships. It's all about engaging actively, really listening, and making customer service a core part of your social activity, whether you're talking to consumers or other businesses. Remember, it's a two-way street for building that loyalty.
And finally, community and SEO. Focus on fostering genuine connections among your audience members to build powerful communities. And understand that all the social activity indirectly but significantly supports your visibility in search results through boosting brand awareness, driving quality traffic, and helping you attract those all-important backlinks.
Yeah, it's really clear social media isn't just this separate thing you do over here anymore. Its impact just ripples out across everything: marketing, customer service, how your brand is perceived, even how easy you are to find online.
It's become a truly strategic asset, not just a place to, post updates, but only when you approach it deliberately, stay consistent, and actually measure its impact in ways that connect back to what you're trying to achieve.
Social media has definitely evolved, hasn't it? From just like a simple posting platform to this deeply integrated part of how brands connect, how they build trust, and yeah, even how they influence their own visibility online. It really requires thought, consistency, and I think a genuine desire to engage.
And here's maybe a final thought to leave you with, kind of bubbling up from exploring all these sources. Maybe think about social media's influence less as just visibility and more as validation.
Validation.
Yeah, every authentic interaction you have, every piece of genuinely helpful content you share, every connection made within your community, every time you resolve a customer's issue effectively, it validates your brand's value to real people. And it's that ongoing cumulative validation that ultimately drives meaningful ROI, builds those strong brands people trust, deepens relationships, and yeah, creates the conditions for better search visibility too.
That's a great way to frame it. So maybe the next time you're scrolling through your feed, look at it with that lens. How is this brand using visuals consistently? Can you almost hear a distinct voice? Are they just shouting into the void, or are they actually talking with people, building connections? And then think, how might all that effort, that daily validation work, be quietly adding up to their bottom line, their reputation, maybe even how easily you'd find them if you type their name into Google?
Exactly. And maybe think about how applying just one or two of these ideas more intentionally could make a difference in your own social media efforts, whether that's for your personal brand or for a business you're involved with.
Lots to think about there. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.